Hello and welcome to STARLIMS webinar series. On behalf of STARLIMS, I'd like to thank you all for attending today's event, How STARLIMS Helps Food and Beverage Companies Achieve Compliance with the New Food Safety Regulations. My name is Caroline Araujo. I'm the Marketing Manager at STARLIMS and will be moderating the event. Today's speaker is Arne Bailier, Sales Executive at STARLIMS. Following the presentation, we will move into a live questions and answer session where you can pose questions to today's speaker. Please remember you can submit your questions at any point during the webinar using the questions panel in the menu on the right. We will try to address as many questions as possible during our time together, but if we run out of time, the unaddressed questions will be answered via email. Additional resources can also be accessed via the resource window, also located on the right of your screen. And just to remind you, the recording of this webinar will be available later this week at the STARLIMS website. I'll now hand over to Arne.
Thank you, Caroline, for this introduction. I'm very honored to have you all here as our guest in our webinar about compliance in the food and beverage industry. And a little word about myself. I was an IT LIMS administrator in the Charité in Berlin a long time ago, before rolling into the LIMS business as an account manager and sales executive. And here in STARLIMS, I'm active at the European level for France and for the Benelux. And I have prepared this presentation for you today. Let's have a look at the agenda. What we're going to see today is going to be about the future of food safety, some general industry trends, the new food regulations in the European Union, how they will impact food businesses, the situation in the USA, the FDA's blueprint for the future of food safety, and other initiatives that will take place in the very near future, trends in digitalization in the food industry, our own industry-specific know-how and our best practices guiding businesses towards compliance, and the future outlook, not only from our product perspective, but also from the food and beverage and food safety perspective, the trends that will emerge there later. Right. Let's have a look at the food and beverage industry main challenges. So food and beverage manufacturing is a unique and complex business with regulatory compliance that requires tight control over processes and conformance. From genetically modified seeds and crops or transgenics, from fruit source transparency and supplier traceability required to the food and beverages organizations, the challenge here is to ensure that food safety is in place and quality is at the highest level, and at the same time remain profitable. Food and beverage companies require this efficiency in their business and throughout the supply chains, because the margins aren't always that high. So, and supporting these processes are laboratory informatics solutions who play a crucial role in supporting quality requirements of food and beverage organizations, providing traceability and accessibility of data and other competencies to ensure quality control and regulatory compliance. So this is basically the framework where we're going to be moving in the challenges within the business, and how our laboratory informatics solutions support these processes. So let's have a look at the main trends now. A very big trend in food and beverage industry is product recalls. That means product recalls, they're increasing in size and number, driven by the increasing complexity of global supply chains and concentration of certain components or ingredients on a smaller number of suppliers, as well as tougher regulations. So at the same time, manufacturers are sourcing their components or their ingredients or their raw materials from fewer suppliers as supply chains become leaner and more global. This has seen huge increases in values at risk, and the emergence of a multiplier or ripple effect, where a single recall from a certain product can impact numerous manufacturers, brands, and countries, causing reputational damage and large financial losses. I have not included practical examples with names of companies because I didn't want this webinar to become like a finger-pointing session where we, nail some bad company against the wall because they had an issue. But as a to-do task for everybody participating, I would ask you after the webinar, or even if you have a small time on the side, just given product recalls in Google for the and set the result to the last 24 hours or even the last couple of days, and you will be amazed about the amount of stuff that's coming back that has to be recalled because products are on the market that shouldn't be, and it's a really, really big problem, and it's becoming ever and bigger every day. So we have to look in detail now what this means for a company to have a product recall, and how this affects the companies and the regulatory instances. Food and beverage companies have had to pay millions and millions of dollars for violating food laws. In some cases, contaminated products were distributed. A major retailer has had to pay 1.5 million euros because of listeria in cheese and violation of food laws. So the recall was too late. 4 employees got financial penalties, and that's when mayhem started. But this is actually a small amount. In another very, very well-known case, an ice cream producer in the United States had to pay 17 million euros, and I think that was the end of those guys. So the direct costs for recalling a food product are: you have to assemble a crisis team. You have to remove the product from the market with all the investment that came with it. You have to start investigating and addressing the cause, and you have to manage the public relation fallout. This alone is already a huge cost. But to that, there is also the indirect costs that are, of course, legal issues, litigation, everything that goes wrong can be decided in front of a court. If you're a big company, stock value decline once this hits the headlines. Of course, the normal fines that come with it, loss in sales and industry impact. And I would add another one to that, and one that is very dangerous for any business, is the political impact, because it's also a very, very big menace to public authorities to have a food contamination case or spiraling out of control. Governments can and have fallen because of these issues. And that's why against the background of these increasing product recalls that are happening now, the regulatory authorities have reacted. The response of the regulatory authorities has been strengthened as a result of high-profile recalls and contamination issues. The quality control regulations have been strengthened, and this is especially true for exporters. Companies are now subject to more frequent regulatory inspections. So in this image here, this map shows all the main acts and actors that have been recently working on impacting the product recall landscape, so where recent regulations have been updated. So it's basically worldwide. The biggest consumer markets are, of course, the U.S. and the EU, and that's also where the most stringent regulations have been in place. So the regulatory authorities are reacting, and there's lots of new rules coming with regards to the safety, food safety, and the compliance with food safety regulations. So let's go to the following slide. It's not that this comes falling out of the sky, because actually we are already within the food industry under a very stringent regime, actually. The food industry is under strict observation by consumers, of course, and authorities alike. In the United States, the Food and Drug Administration, or the FDA, sets binding standards for food products entering the market. Title 21 for the Code of Federal Regulation, Part 11, outlines the regulations of the U.S. Food and Drug Administration for electronic records and electronic signatures. In Europe, the specifications of good manufacturing practice, or GMP, serve as quality standards. In the EU GMP Annex 11, the European Commission regulates the requirements for computerized systems. So how digital records involved in food safety and food production should be handled is regulated in these documents and these regulations. So here we have the famous EU Annex 11 and CFR Part 1 compliance issue. The United States and Food and Drug Administration and the European Commission have defined regulations already for the conditions under which regulated companies can submit electronic records in lieu of paper documents. These regulations define the measures that must be in place to ensure the integrity, the trustworthiness, and the reliability of the electronic records. So compliance with all these new regulations is not a one-off thing. It's an ongoing process that requires agility and patience to operate with an ever-changing landscape. The landscape is changing on the technological side, but also on the regulatory side. And there's no one magic solution that will get you out of this. But if you have a Part 11 compliance solution like STARLIMS is, and you have it in place, it can support organizations on meeting the data integrity needs in a global environment. Because we are coming from a background from pharma, STARLIMS has the experience of functioning within regulatory landscape that become ever more stringent, and we have lots of tools at our disposition to make you compliant with these new regulatory requirements out of our experience. So the regulations define 3 types of controls that you have to have for your electronic record system. Administrative controls, that means the definition of policies, such as the identification of individuals and non-repudiation of electronic records. Procedural controls, that's like standard operating procedures for using and maintaining your system. And technical controls, functions that are built into the software, such as security and access to the system, as well as an audit trail. For compliance with these regulations, all of the 3 above controls must be implemented. So we've heard about the industry, we've heard about the trends, the product recalls, we've heard about the reply from the regulatory authorities, strengthening their grip, issuing new rules, and we've had a look at the existing regulatory frame that's largely responsible for defining how electronic aids and records can be kept and used in the food and beverage industry. So it's time for some pertinent questions before we have a look into the more recent legislative initiative, which add another pound of salt on the teaspoon, I would say. So let's ask ourselves some questions. What would be the impact if your organization received a notification letter associated with non-compliance of applicable European standards or any USA global standard? What is the potential cost of losing access to the European and US markets, or not being able to comply with regulatory requirements for food and safety and other requested management commitments? And this we will learn about more in the near future. Since the FDA wants to integrate data streams and to tap into new technologies to identify outbreaks and trace the origin of contaminated foods to its source within minutes or even within seconds, how can you demonstrate compliance with this requirement using paper-based workflows and scattered silos of data? The main message here is the industry is changing, the law is changing, technology is changing, and it's all coming together. And it's not an issue of when or if, but it's not an issue of if, but it's an issue of when are organizations going to make the change. Let's have a look at the recent European legal initiatives concerning food safety. So this is from this year. On the 3rd of March of 2021, the European Commission adopted a new regulation which amends its existing food safety regulation that's already in place. And this time it requires food business operators to establish and provide evidence of an appropriate food safety culture, and it also details the steps these businesses must take to satisfy this obligation. This is already in practice. This has been voted. This is a law that's already, defining how businesses have to act. As such, it's the first authoritative source that aims at defining the key elements of its policy regarding food safety. The challenges for management under this new European legislation for managements active within the food and beverage industry are listed in the law, in the text of the law, and here are some of those. It's ensuring that roles and responsibilities are clearly communicated within each activity of the food business, maintaining the integrity of the food hygiene system when changes are planned and implemented, verifying that controls are being performed timely and efficiently and that documentation is up to date, ensuring that the appropriate training and supervision are in place for personnel, ensuring compliance with relevant regulatory requirements, and encouraging continual improvement of your food safety management system by taking into account developments in science, technology, and best practices. This is not just some manual, this is a law, and this is what the European Union now expects of managements to demonstrate that they have full compliance with all these requirements here. This is not just in Europe, because we can see also in the United States that there are similar initiatives on their way. Now let's look in more detail to the Food and Drug Administration's initiatives towards a new era of food safety. This is all quite recent. We're talking about the last year and a half that these initiatives have been taken underway. The new era of smarter food safety is a publication that was launched a year and a half ago by the Food and Drug Administration in the USA. And what's interesting is that the new European regulation is of interest for US food companies because it helps to identify what it means to regulators for a food company to have a strong food safety culture and the types of activities that can potentially demonstrate that a company is fostering such a strong food safety culture within its business. And for this new era of smarter food safety, the US Food and Drug Administration has listed 4 core elements. We'll not cover all of them, but I'll list them to start with. So they're preparing the landscape for tech-enabled traceability, smarter tools and approaches for prevention and outbreak response, new business models and retail modernization, and also the food safety culture. So tech-enabled traceability is, of course, a big theme when we're talking about improving quality assurance within the food and beverage industry. I'll go in a little bit more detail here. The records involved in moving food through the supply chain are still largely paper-based, still at the moment. This, along with insufficient data identifying the product along the supply chain, creates an inability to rapidly track and trace food, and during an outbreak, this can cost lives, millions of dollars in available product loss, and damage to consumer trust. As we have seen with outbreaks over the past decade, anonymity and lack of traceability in the food system are an Achilles heel that hinders more significant process in rapid traceback efforts to identify contaminated foods. And how does the FDA want this to be in the future? That's on the right side. This is all coming out of their own publication. We want to tap into new technologies and integrate data streams to identify outbreaks and trace the origin of a contaminated food to its source in minutes or even seconds, speeding our response with public health as it risks. Well, this reminds a bit of the question I asked earlier. This is basically the FDA setting out that in the future they will expect from a company active in the food and beverage industry to be able to demonstrate compliance and to be able to demonstrate full traceability of all transactions that were taken by a food business on its products within minutes or even seconds. And that's why I was talking earlier about, paper-based workflows, scattered silos of data. For what's coming and for the level of compliance you're going to have to demonstrate as a food and beverage business in the future, and the speed at which these answers will have to be provided, you're going to have to look at digitalizing your data management. And that's what we are offering with STARLIMS as an integrated and scalable solution. So whether grower, manufacturer, supplier, or distributor, our food and beverage solution is a scalable web-based solution that will allow you to connect from virtually anywhere to your system, and will offer a full CFR Part 1 compliant capable features to ensure data integrity, regulatory compliance, and inspection readiness. Our solution provides a platform for the documentation of results and the management of information in a secure and reliable way, providing functionality that helps you monitor and control safety and quality of your raw materials, your in-process, and your finished goods testing. It's designed to interface and integrate with an organization's existing instrumentation and software solutions and platforms across an enterprise, both locally and globally. So this is an overview of the certifications and memberships that we are already adhering to, and this is also based upon our decade-long experience of being active in a highly regulated industry, that we have actually acquired a big amount of certifications that allow us to be a respected and recognized data information and digitalization tool within the industry. Right. We'll see a more detailed practical example in the near future, but I would like to show you what it actually means having an integrated solution. So we of course offer a LIMS laboratory information management system as the core of our expertise. But actually, we offer a whole lot with it, and it's all integrated into one platform. So that means that you can have your scientific document management system. You can have mobile access to your lab where your tests are done on your raw materials or your finished goods. You can have analytics with it, so you can have a graphical overview of your lab, its efficiency, identify trends and bottlenecks. You can also use it on the cloud. You can have it now very, very modern as a SaaS solution, basically not having big IT implementations on-premise, but rather having them hosted by us. And we also offer lab execution system, which offers fully configurable guided workflows, optimized also for touch devices. Portal functionality, you can manage your orders seamlessly and efficiently, or send out information exchanges to other sites you're handling with, and an electronic lab notebook. These are all features that come with our STARLIMS solution. We'll look at those in a bit more detail later on. But first, we're going to take the most important information about what we can offer to the food and beverage industry. First of all, of course, our LIMS solution, which manages data, allowing you a real-time look at what's happening to ensure your lab's efficiency and effectiveness is maximized. So LIMS software is used to manage the collection, processing, storage, retrieval, and analysis of information generated in the labs. It also supports collaboration across the laboratory and helps to ensure the quality, regulatory compliance, and safety of products and developments. We have with STARLIMS a comprehensive solution which has the LIMS as the centerpiece, coupled with our electronic lab notebook, scientific data management system, mobile capabilities, and advanced analytics. We have an integrated solution that helps you from managing data in silos to delivering integrated, meaningful, and intelligent information that supports lab workflows and also adds business value. The best practices of the industry regarding sample accountability, security, integrity, and chain of custody are put into practice by STARLIMS, and on top of it, you have flexible reporting functions that allow you to meet complex requirements of internal and external customers, including production of certificates of analysis. And you can also, of course, access the entire sample history, track and manage your analyst trainings, your personal trainings, your certifications of your personnel for tests and methods, something that was, if you remember well, also one of the goals for the new future regulations in the food and beverage industry. You can schedule courses and recertificate your staff if the system notices you that the certification has expired, and you can create, of course, control charts. Just some of the functionality that we have to offer. What do best practices regarding regulatory compliance mean? One of the most important features here is, of course, an audit trail. And STARLIMS generates time-stamped audit trails. The audit trail records the date and time of operator entries or actions. So audit trails can be collected for the creation, for the modification, or for the deletion of records. STARLIMS provides the ability to track all changes made to a given field. This ability to track is critical for satisfying CFR Part 11, the code of the Title 21 Code of the Federal Regulations. STARLIMS allows you to view the login history, and the history application is the access point for this information. So you can always audit for a record, for a certain table, for controls and events that are monitored. After you start auditing, you do not have the option to stop auditing. So the audit trail window includes a search option, which allows you to search for particular events in an audit trail. The automated audit management ensures that all processes that happen within the company and that are linked and that are registered in the LIMS are documented, are traceable, and show a complete audit history. STARLIMS enables you to access the information quickly and easily, so you have the documentation you need as soon as you need it. If everything is registered in your system and you have a certain request, then it is really a matter of seconds to get to the source of information. We will show that a little bit later. Electronic signatures, of course, also very important. So an electronic signature is a username and password combination assigned to an individual, always an individual, that represents the individual's handwritten authorization. This helps ensure transparency as well as the integrity of the signature. So we have complete electronic signature capability within STARLIMS, and we provide a time-stamped archive of all signatures, preventing electronic signatures from being modified, duplicated, transferred, or removed. And we accommodate the use of signature comments for certain events within your production chain. So security, data protection, and encryption, another industry best practice. So data security is an essential component of CFR Part 11 compliance. So if you work with sensitive data, you must ensure that this data is secure. And to do so, you must control the access to these documents. Our STARLIMS SDMS management solution, our scientific document management solution, gives you full control over who has access to the system by enabling configurable permission and security settings. That means that you know who has accessed each document, and if any changes were made, you'll know who made them. This SDMS solution has recently also been launched as a standalone product for document management and also for instrument integration. So we can also interface this with other LIMS solutions. This year it has been launched as a standalone. Maybe it could be of interest for some people wanting to get grip on their document management and instrument interfaces. Password policy, of course. So access to the system is based on password policy or based by roles. We have different password combinations that are possible based on expiry date, complexity, lockout, and after failed attempts, inactive damage. So all of this is also part of our policy regarding industry standards and verifying that only the right person can log into the system. Access to the system, another best practice, is controlled by roles, site, and service groups. So roles are used to manage security access and operation of the system and to grant or revoke the user right to perform different actions. Security measures defined by role and user information are used to control access to data and system functionality and to track system login failures and successes. The system allows for creation of unlimited roles with assigned privileges and the assignment of those roles to the users. Site and service group access determines which site the user logs into and which samples appear for the users to process or which part of the system he has access to. And this, of course, is very important in case of a later inspection or audit. Then we do, of course, have a policy for the protection of electronic record controls throughout retention periods. So we ensure that electronic records are protected and available during the data retention period. This means system access, data creation, modification, and deletion are controlled via the user ID, password, service groups, and its corresponding access privileges. Purging or deletion required to enforce retention periods could be managed using the archive module. And our archive module allows you to archive and restore data. With this, you can define network locations for the archives, the type of data that gets archived, and the age of the data to be archived. And we were talking about employee training and the new requirements of the European Commission. So they must be properly trained to maintain and use an electronic system and perform all tasks as dictated by the European regulations and also, of course, by our classical FDA regulations. So we provide a training management tool that ensures your personnel is fully trained on all on the CFR Part 11 compliance requirements, and that all training is documented and auditable. If any changes are made to personnel, STARLIMS allows you to identify which employees need new or additional training. So automatic tracking of due dates promises predictability of training compliance and can help ensure that all training is completed on time. What this all means is that actually for the future of food regulation and the upcoming changes in the regulatory landscapes, we are already very well prepared because we have gone through this in pharma, where you can, in medical and development of medication or alternative therapies, you can really not make a mistake. And we have been putting this into practice for a long, long time already. And so to speak, we're ahead of the regulatory initiatives that are now also gaining traction in the food and beverage industry. So the main functionality that we have to serve the food and beverage industry is offering the ability to compare results of production processes, tests of production processes, to ensure that your raw materials, your in-process, and your finished products meet your specifications. Visual flagging of results that are out of specification for a quick response. Built-in features for complete traceability and regulatory compliance. Integrated electronic record management for complete auditable track of records of all your lab resources taking part in a specific analysis, scientists, instruments, standards, standard operating procedures, and offering traceability information such as results, equipment status, analyst certifications, the location of the sample, the owner, the actions performed, and a lot more. So what tools do we offer to achieve this? Well, we offer several extra tools with STARLIMS. One of the most important being the electronic lab notebook, totally eliminating paper. So basically, each step has to be documented, and laboratory workflows are very complex. So documenting in paper notebooks or in Excel files, as we see it still in a lot of times, and stored on shared drives, it's very inefficient and makes it difficult to maintain compliance. And especially, it will be impossible in the future to do it this way. That's a hard reality. So you cannot really share notebooks with colleagues in different locations and files stored on department shared drives. And, all of a sudden there's going to be a request. We need this within minutes. And it's very difficult to maintain this and to search it. So therefore, we have developed an electronic lab notebook, which is a powerful paper notebook replacement for your labs. And it allows you to focus on getting your work done efficiently and allows to execute your test workflow without any interruptions, offering standard operating procedures next to the result entry screen, and also allowing the possibility to perform complex Excel-like calculations on specific test results within the ELN. I'm sorry. Let's have the next tool, so that we're going to look at in a little bit more detail. So we offer also advanced analytics once we have everything in our system and all the data about our workflows and our products and raw materials is in the system. The great thing is that we can store all this data about your daily lab activity and analyze it, looking at trends and patterns over time. Is made very easy with our advanced analytics modules, which offers you the possibility to graphically display all the main data in your lab, and which will allow lab managers or other higher level staff to make decisions and build business cases for new resources. But most importantly, it provides you with the data you need to make effective decisions to run your lab. So this also is an integrated part of our solution. For some working in the field, we need mobile solutions. Of course, you can use a mobile app available on Apple or an Android device to continue your work from wherever you are. So you can be in the lab, but you could be going through the lab or in the field collecting a sample from a crop. You are free to continue your work regardless of the device you're using. So also here we can fully automate and digitalize your workflows with mobile solutions. Then we have also a request management portal, which is also an in-house solution. That is a single point of collaboration and exchange of information, such as COA results. So this request management portal allows your customers, your external sites or external departments to create and submit test requests directly into your data management system and submit material tests for review. And through the portal, you can communicate your results and send the COA back to the site where it originally came from, speeding up the process and allowing your customers or external sites or partners to track the progress of their request, and also to consult intermediary results that have not been released but that are already logged in the system if they want to really, really quickly discover something very important regarding trend and product development. Very shortly, I'm going to touch on interfaces, because we also have the ability to, with our basic solution and all the modules that comes with it, to interface with third-party software via APIs, or we can use file-based instruments connections. We can connect to SAP or other ERP systems. So we provide lots of specific interfaces, and we can integrate in practically any IT landscape that's out there. I'm not going to go in very much detail, because this could be a theme on itself. But basically, we have the opportunity to connect to any possible data management system or ERP system or instrument that's out there. A quick look at our architecture before we go into the actual product workflow and show you what it all means when it all comes together. We have a 3-tier architecture with a presentation tier, which is what people will see through their device, be it a tablet or a desktop or a mobile phone. And the business logic tier, which performs the calculations and makes logical decisions. And underneath that, we have the database tier where all your data is stored, which is then rendered in an advanced analytics dashboard if you've installed anything well. So, but this is basically a very, very high-level architecture view. It's important to know that you can also, let us handle the second and the third tier, and you subscribe to STARLIMS as a software as a service product, and we'll do the hosting for you. So we've become quite lightweight in recent times, which we needed to be. So customer references, I'm not really going to give out big amounts of references. I just let in the most important one to make our case. I think there's no better illustration than the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, which is actually our customer, using our software to manage their processes and their analysis of vast amounts of information generated by several FDA labs. So we provided the needed capability to manage their analytical workflow operations, and within 14 labs for approximately 825 users, supporting sample accountability, data analysis, document control, report generation, and other lab operation functions. So I'm only going to show one customer in this presentation, but I think this should hint at where also a bit of the knowledge that they have about the future of food safety comes from. So let's have a look at a general lab workflow here. It's a bit more detail. Here we have a very normal batch workflow from login to receiving to result entry, evaluation and approval, and the release of the report. 5 stages. And underneath are the different modules of STARLIMS that play a role in it. But as you will see, for the whole process, there is a yellow circle here, and it's called audit trail, and there's a green circle that's analytics. That means that everything is going to happen from the moment something enters your company or your lab through the entire workflow, is registered, is audited, and can be rendered in an analytical view. This basically means that you have all of the information at your disposition, and through the interfaces and the integration of your system with your existing IT landscape, you will then dispose of a very, very powerful data management tool that will demonstrate your full compliance. So let's see how it works. This is an overview of how a dashboard looks within STARLIMS, within our application. And we see a dashboard here that shows us an advanced analytics dashboard that, based on what I just said, all the information that we've registered about tests and results and samples being run through the workflows and that we have at our disposal now, we have a fully accessible dashboard that allows us to track, to drill down into the data and to go check out if there is a certain product but has most out-of-spec tests. Then we have the dashboard will automatically and actively display the information for the test we selected. Then it will give us the possibility to drill down and to have a look at the product that was involved. Which will then guide us through a graphical representation of this product overview where this peak in out-of-spec results has happened. We can see then where it happened. And then we will have the possibility to go not only looking at the product, but we can also have an access point from the advanced analytics dashboards back into our main STARLIMS application the batch manager where all the information is actually stored. So that means that from the insights we gain from advanced analytics and the drill down that we performed to have an investigation on the analytic side of what was going on, we have now an access point, and we can go back into STARLIMS and go into the system to have a deeper insight into what was going on with this batch. And that's where our traceability application comes into play. So here we have full information about the environmental monitoring that has taken place on these batches. We have the full batch genealogy, taking into account all products that were and where they come from and where this batch was derived from. All of this has been registered. We have the certifications for personnel. The certifications, the calibration from our instruments comes from our instrument management, the QC samples. We have all certifications readily available regarding this batch. And also, we can have a look at the retest workflow. So let me just reiterate this. We had, we came from an advanced analytics dashboards, and we were, from the batch manager, we could activate the traceability module where we have, for this particular out-of-spec result, direct info on the environmental monitoring, on the batch genealogy, on the certifications, and on the retest workflows, certifications of instruments and of personnel, and also standard operating procedures. So in the end, this means that a lot of what the FDA and the European Commission are aiming for, that will be implemented, and to have this full traceability and to be able to reply quickly, and all this functionality is part of our DNA at STARLIMS, and this is what we bring to the industry. So why should you go with us? Because we have the industry specialists, because we have a full maintenance service package, which allows you to remain operable. We have support around the globe. We have a user forum with STARLIMS based on 3 decades of user experiences, where we can exchange new ideas. Because we are already offering an integrated solution, and you shouldn't, compile stuff from different vendors. Because we also offer an automated validation framework, and because of the large content library that comes with our system, not only regarding advanced analytics dashboard, but also hundreds of predefined reports that are ready to use and that are already have already been implemented. So basically, we offer a full digital transformation tool set. So the future perspective, and this is short. This is going to be quite short. This is our future perspective, but also this coincides with the future perspective for the food and beverage industry, as the FDA has approved and communicated. We focus on the Internet of Things, machine learning, and automation. Actually, this is what's going to happen also in the future in the food and beverage industry. We're going to see lots of artificial intelligence processes taking place. Internet of Things, radio frequency ID chip stuff is going to register everything that comes in and out of the lab. It won't have to be logged in or registered manually or even scanned. The system will recognize that these goods have entered the building because they will have the right chip. And this is our roadmap, but this also coincides with the roadmap for the industry, where our vision is to focus on enabling a holistic approach to truly digitalize labs. The digitization of various industries is still in its infancy. The food and beverage industry is moving fast now, but we have been moving with the pharma industry and with other industries for a long time, and we are the right partner to help you and to streamline this process. So these are the 4 main themes here. So I was talking about radio frequency ID chips that will, will get more and more prominence in the workflow in the food and beverage labs. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, and the lab or the Internet of Things, where everything is interconnected. So this is what we're working on. This is what the FDA has laid out for the future as well. So it's not just a one-off. It's a truly evolutive product that will help you stand the test of time and be ready for future for future challenges. So I will hold here on the last slide, and would like to ask if there are any questions.
Yes, so thank you very much, Arne, for the excellent presentation. So we now have the pleasure to introduce our Q&A session, where we will address your questions. So don't forget, you can still submit your queries via the questions panel in the menu on the right. So let's take a look at the first question that we have here. So how can a LIMS facilitate the environmental monitoring process to enable best practices even by non-specialist staff?
Okay, that's a good question. Well, I think environmental monitoring is something that needs to be performed in food and beverage on a very regular basis. And I think it can be simplified if each test of sets of test results can be automatically linked to sampling points in the facility. So out of spec results could be linked to corrective and preventive actions. So test failures at a particular sampling point, which you could define in the LIMS, all your sampling points, you can define them in STARLIMS, could be used to trigger frequent testing at that point according to preset criteria. So the data management capabilities within a LIMS make it possible to implement data management strategies to increase your security and your availability of data. But perhaps most importantly, a properly configured LIMS where everything is set in place and lots of effort goes into the configuration of a product so that it fits the people on the work floor. It can provide a framework for setup and adjustment by the environmental monitoring expert, while also reducing the expertise required to operate it on a daily basis. So basically, a robust LIMS implementation will just capture the necessary QA information needed to investigate deviations and out-of-spec results. So this will result, I think if you take into account that we have a lab execution system or even an ELN, you could do it in various ways that could actually guide your lab personnel step by step on the tablets on going through the right procedure for performing the environmental monitoring, testing, and tracking. I think that we have proven in the past and every day that we actually have these opportunities to make complex tasks easily performable, even by staff that is not so IT oriented, because they're really going to get a guide. They're going to be guided through the steps that they have to take. Yeah. So okay. I hope this answers the question.
Yes. Thank you, Arne. So the next question that we have here is, what food safety and security needs did the pandemic highlight and or accelerate? Yeah,
well, that, of course, is one of the most stringent issues that the entire sanitation craze that came with. Well, I'm not going to call it craze. It was really out of good grounds, but because it made it so important, that put a lot of stringency in because it made clear that traceability, and advanced analytical tools could provide greater supply chain visibility and potentially help regulatory authorities and the industry anticipate the kind of marketplace imbalances or expected that we experienced during this pandemic. So the safety of foods and the safety of ourselves are actually one, and therefore the need for best practices to help ensure the safety of foods ordered, be it online or delivered directly to customers, has been, accelerated. The need to know that this is safe by the COVID situation, but it has skyrocketed because people are hunkered down and everybody's ordering foods from grocery store and restaurants online, and often for the first time. So it made a question of how can we ensure that these foods are produced, packed, and transported safely directly to customers more important than ever. So further, also, I must say that the pandemic shined a light on what it truly means to have a strong food safety culture, which is all about the people who work on farms and in facilities accepting responsibility for producing safe goods and keeping those people safe when co-workers are sick. So it's a lot of things have come in place, but basically what we can say is that these public health concerns and travel considerations have also highlighted, the need to find new and innovative ways to carry out oversight activities. And so they are considering ways to do virtual and more remote inspections, all while maintaining, the highest standards of quality, and to use predictive analytics to determine, farms or production facilities that could pose the greatest risks. So I think the pandemic has really sharpened the need for more stringent and food awareness, safety awareness, not only with regulatory authorities, but also with ourselves, that actually there is lots of potential danger if things are not managed well.
All right, thanks, Arne. So that's all we have time for today. Any unanswered questions will be responded to via email. And I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. As you leave the webinar, a survey will appear on your screen asking you to rate this session. Please take a moment to provide your feedback. On behalf of STARLIMS, I'd like to thank you all for attending today's webinar, and we hope to see you all again soon. Goodbye.
Goodbye. We'll answer your questions through email, the ones that are still there.